Hey guys, thanks for listening. This is Matt. I'm starting over.
Go.
Okay. Hey guys, this is Matt. I want to thank you for listening to our last episode, the armed bank robbery creative storytelling episode. It was a little bit shorter than our usual episodes, and I feel like we missed some details. So this episode is a Q&A format that Brittany and I will be doing of questions that I get asked frequently, where I will dive into the thoughts and feelings and different situations that I had during this time in my life. I hope that my answers provide some type of insight for people who are listening. So if there are any more questions or anything that you'd like to know or comment on, do it on doitscared.com/podcast or comment on Instagram or TikTok. Without further ado, enjoy this episode called Details Matter. Let's do it one more time.
I mean, that was pretty good. That was okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Hey guys, this is Matt. I would like to thank you for listening to our last episode. It was a bit shorter than some of our episodes in the past due to the creative storytelling approach. We had fun doing it, but in doing so, we missed some details or omitted some, let's just say. So this episode is a Q&A format that Brittany and I are going to do of questions that I get asked frequently. I will dive into the thoughts and feelings that I had during this situation, and I hope that my answers provide some insight, if nothing else, to our listeners. If there is a question that you might have, feel free to submit it on doitscared.com/podcast or comment on Instagram or TikTok. Without further ado, enjoy this episode called Details Matter.
So when I heard about your story, Matt, naturally, I had a bunch of questions for you. I mean, I think we spent literally hours where I was asking you maybe some very detailed questions that you have maybe even never thought about before. Yeah. And over time, you've had friends, family ask you a lot of questions. We've had people submit questions to our website, and I've created an exhaustive list that range from the creation of planning to the execution to the aftermath of your experience during that time in your life. So let's go and get started on question number 1 here, all right?
Okay.
All right. So can you tell us what led to the point to where you felt compelled that bank robbery was the only option left, right? We're listening to this, and as your average listener, you know, I know that being in debt can be hard. You know, living life on the run can be hard. But how is that the answer in your head during this time?
It wasn't me, you know.
Okay, It's a great alibi.
Well, you know, that's the way I feel. You know, I'm constantly looking at it from that average Joe point of view. And I say frequently that I have an out of body experience when this happened. But, you know, leading up to the point where I said, hey, I'm going to rob a bank, right? I mean, who does that? How is that a, solution for any problem? So I had exhausted all of my other options and resources, and I refused to just sit there and let the system happen to me. So, specifically, I was facing, Tennessee had passed this law, right, where if you don't pay on court costs, and they suspend your driver's license. And I had, at least 4 counties of, whether it be a driving on suspended or some, lightweight traffic misdemeanor or something like that, where I'm trying to keep these court costs up. And one trip to court, it's going to be $1,000 or better, so when you don't have any money, just giving these people $25 a month is, it's a thing. So, and if you don't, they just automatically suspend your driver's license. The next time you're got a crack in your tail light, or the trailer lights aren't working, or you get pulled over, then you realize that your license is suspended. They take you to jail. They impound your car. And that had happened to me at a minimum, it had happened to me almost 10 times. I went to court Believe it was 31 times in 2015.
Wow.
And in addition, I had, during, this drug tear that I was on, I had a charge on me that was terminating prematurely. They had started my probation before I got out of jail, which is great in any other situation. You're like, wow, you just, kind of got them for 6 months. But there was also a fine attached to that. So $3,500 restitution fine, which was might as well have been $1 million to me.
Right. In that perspective. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So on top of that, I had, became aware that my uh, girlfriend was pregnant with my daughter, and I decided that, hey, guess what? I have skills. I can, start a business. I can start building decks. I can trim houses. And we can make a good living for ourselves, and have a second chance at what I had failed at my entire life. And I was excited about it. I went to the ultrasounds. I was just completely jazzed. And so when I started this business, I had gotten a couple of jobs, and I finally landed a nice contract. And, we got the deposit on it, got all set up, got the licenses and the permits and the equipment and the tools, and put some tires on the truck, and went through all this stuff. And of course, got ready to do the project, and then boom, they backed out on it, like right at the day of the start date. And it was all due to my criminal history. And of course, they wanted their deposit back. And I was like, you know, 5, 6 grand of that was gone. So I give them back what we had left. And I'm getting these emails from lawyers saying, you're gonna, you're facing a myriad of, punitive damages and this and this and this. And I had worked out a payment plan that wasn't good enough. And, I even, I tried to make like murals and signs for businesses. I spent time in my backyard making a sign for like Griffin's Market. Every store around me, I was in there. I was like, hey, you guys you need to advertise. Just, because for me, at least my artistic abilities, I could go buy a couple of sheets of plywood, some lighting, and some screws and stuff, and create something beautiful, just with my hands versus, the let's say building a house, where someone else is more than likely to get the job. So I was like, maybe I was just trying to do everything that I could. Right. And it all just kind of boiled down to, oh yeah, there was one more thing. I had another driving on suspended in Williamson County. That was the situation where, I've been in the court 1,000 times. You go get your driver's license, you show up to court with it, they throw the case out, it's over with. But in Williamson County, that doesn't work. I showed up with my driver's license, approached the DA, and was like, hey, can you, get this thrown out with court costs, and, I'll be on my way. Well, they made a big deal of it and said, no, we're continuing your case until next month, and you are going to come back with a lawyer. You're not going to disrespect this court again by not being represented by counsel, and you are going to do some jail time for this driving on suspended. And I was like, holy crap, man. So I got to go over here and buy a lawyer for $3,500, which is the minimum up there, and only to go to jail anyways, which if I didn't, it was going to be more. So all of this had culminated down to like this Monday. I had the Monday after the bank robbery. It was, of course, on a Friday. And I, had said everything up to that day. I was like, finally, when nothing worked, I, of course, was like, well, at least I can go to my pain doctor, get the medicine, and we can have, who knows, maybe we'll find a good buyer and have enough money to, give this one a few hundred, give this one 1,000, give this one a few hundred, and just kind of keep on going here. But of course, I ended up getting, terminated by my doctor, getting robbed for my last script. And then at that point, walking, basically had just been ran over by this pickup truck. Walking back to the car, that's the moment right there in that gas station. I knew, I was like, I'm going to have to do something. I have to do something. I can't just sit there and wait for a county cop car to come pulling up on Tuesday or Wednesday with a misdemeanor warrant, or a few days in jail, which is going to turn into a revoking of bond, and then have this one come and this one come, and be running through this system for the next, who knows, decade. So, and it's all money, all revolves around money. It's kind of crazy too, because they made that law, the driver's license law, illegal during my prison stay, and then overturned it 2 years later and made it back to that again. It's really weird, but that's neither here nor there. So after being robbed and ran over and exhausted all our resources, which was, I think, a Tuesday or Wednesday before that fateful Friday, is the moment that I was like, I've got to do something. And that's the only thing that I could think of. That's the only thing that I could think of, is walking out there with a big bag of money, paying everybody, and not hurting anyone, and getting on with my life.
As like, someone from the outside perspective, I know you mentioned a few other options you were considering and doing, right? You were hustling hard, whether it was a business, murals, selling pills. But were there any other options? Like, what about your friends or family borrowing money? What about, other types of jobs? Do you really feel like, looking back, you exhausted every option?
I mean, I do feel that way, but the way my life was going at that time, I mean, I had, number one, I know I've talked about my aunt before, and that she's been such a big contributor and a big factor in someone that's always been a means of support in my life. She died of stomach cancer like 2 months before that. And I didn't even know she was sick. Like, I got called one day, somebody said that she was, that she had passed. And I was like, wait, what? What do you mean? Like, nobody even told me anything was wrong with her. I haven't talked to her in like a year. So what's going on? And so that was like, I mean, maybe subconsciously, I think that affected me a lot. Like, it was just something that I kind of never processed. And then I had worked with my uncle at the subdivision that, with the contractor that he had been with for like 30 years, and actually did what I wish that I could have done 20 years ago, which is, get in with that outfit and be a superintendent, and, manage the construction and closing of these, $1 million homes that they've been building around Mount Juliet there. And that's what I was doing, is, managing the sites. I was very familiar with everything from ground to roof and everything in between. It could foresee problems and, troubleshoot stuff. And I was an asset, and, I was irresponsible. Some days I'd be there, some days I wouldn't. Sometimes I would take care of the things that needed to take care of. If I saw an opportunity to jerk around, I did. So, and then I ended up losing that. And, when it comes to, parents, family, or anybody else, it's just like too little too late. There wasn't anything. There was no way, and no one. There may have been something or someone I could have, but it's just like, not again. I've already did all this stuff. I just, I'm tired. I'm, we have an opportunity to start over. This, like, it shouldn't be like this. We shouldn't be looking into this. So I was extremely, just fed up, and that was it.
Yeah. So you've now decided it's time to rob a bank. So on that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even, up until that morning, walk us through that process. Like, if you can, in detail, of how you were preparing, what was going through your head, if you could bring us back to that time.
Well, I know it was really hard. It was really hard because I didn't have any money. And to me, if you're going to do something right, it takes the proper planning and, preparation. And I needed things in order to be able to get away and to be efficient and, concise with this. I needed, a proper disguise. I needed the right kind of vehicle. I needed it to either look a certain way so that I could change it. There were a lot of details. And like I say, details matter. So, I didn't want them to be able to read my plates, or I needed to either go and steal a car. And then I was like, man, I can't go steal a car. I've never stolen a car before in my life. I don't, so that was out of the question for me. So I experimented painting the fender of my truck with some acrylic paint when it was, nice and dirty and dusty. So, paint rubs off when you don't clean the surface, especially when it's that cheap acrylic paint. So I sprayed some on there immediately because I knew it would need a day to set up. And then the next day I went out and wiped it off with a dry t-shirt and it came right off. So I was like, okay, that'll work great. So I can drive up with a black truck and leave with the black truck. And then I can wash this off in the woods somewhere and everyone's looking for a black vehicle. So there's my getaway. So, next is my appearance. I'm thinking I need to look like someone else. I need to throw them off. I need to have them looking for a different type of person. I could wear a clown costume in there, but it may give away my height or race or, my eye color and all that stuff. So I decided to look like a normal person, but a different race, taller, a different voice, a different eye color. I had heel inserts for my shoes. I had stolen the Jimi Hendrix costume from Party City. I just had to walk in there, grab it, and just walk out the door. Buzzers beeping and just walk out, which is like, my heart's racing right now just thinking about it, And number two, I had to commit another theft and walk into a drugstore and steal a couple of burner phones, which is just all hard all together. Like every moment is like a cortisol pumping, stress factory. So just crazy. Finally, building a simulated explosive device was I feel like I'm a terrorist or something, it's like shaking and very nervous the whole time, just like, and then I'm doing it and I actually have this surreal moment and I'm like, this is what I'm doing. I am planning to rob a bank and I am a crazy person. So I'm, it was very surreal, extremely surreal. To add to the planning or those details, moving up to it, I had to say something. My girlfriend was there. She was like, surely you're not going to go through with what I think you're going to go through with. And I was like, look, I'm gonna let's have dinner. I think it was a couple of days, Wednesday, Thursday night. Isaac was there, Matthew was there, my girlfriend was there, and I told them, I said, look, next week either they're gonna have a warrant and they're gonna pull up to get me, or I'm gonna have to go out here and do something that's basically going to put me at risk and possibly put me in prison for the next 10 or 15 years. If I don't try, then they're just gonna pull up, and that's that. Or I can just take off and go on the run. And I am tired of that. I'm not doing that anymore. It seems like I've done it my entire life. I am ready for whatever this is to be washed away one way or another. Either we're going to pay the money and start our life over new, or we're going to do the time and start our life over new. And it was emotional. It was a tough thing, but it's like they almost didn't blame me. That's the impression that I got. It was tough. It was really tough.
Do you feel like there a little bit of like understanding the situation helped you cope with any doubt or regrets you may have been having during that process? Or like, did you have any of those feelings and how did you cope with it before it happened?
It was hard because I had originally, I was scared, I was sad, I was emotional. And even every time that I would get like that, I would feel myself decide not to. I would say, no, I just can't do this. I'm just going to sit down and wait for them, like I always have, or, just deal with it. And I wouldn't let those thoughts come in. I would just keep on moving. I would keep like I say, put one foot in front of the other. I would keep my hands busy. I was like, okay, I got to get focused on the next thing. Okay, that's done. Now it's time to do this. This is done. Now it's time to do that. And then feeling one way or another. It almost made me feel like, oh, wow, you love me. Okay, never mind. But I couldn't afford I did feel that way. I did. And it made me want to just made me, I just wanted it all to go away. I just wanted to be able to, you know, and one way I feel like, my debts have been paid. I've been working, I haven't been making any noise. I've been, under the radar. And at the same time, I was like, look at where my life's at. Something's going to change here,
Right.
one way or another.
Do you feel like your background as an artist influenced the way that you approached this whole act? Because I definitely see, just knowing you, but also in your storytelling of this, the amount of artistry that you had in it, right? Like a blockbuster explosive device, or the fact that, airbrushing. People can't just like pick up an airbrush and start doing it well. So how do you think, being an artist influenced?
Well, I mean, it would play a major role. So, it was, of course, I had tried to, make the signs and the stuff to try to, climb my way out of that. And, maybe someone, would have noticed those and say, hey, I want one too. And the next guy say, hey, I want one too. But it was too little too late, of course. But what's funny is the airbrush that I had was gifted to me by a man up the street, and he happened to be a federal correctional officer.
Oh, the irony in this story. And we'll talk about that a little bit. That's just
Very
Yep.
ironic.
Yep.
He was like, whatever you do something well with it. I just want to see you succeed. And I
Oh
have
man.
like laid awake and felt so terrible about that so many times, because the only thing I did with that thing was make those two signs and then use it to paint my skin. I made up like a special, kind of mixture that, reflected the skin type that I went for. And, I got everywhere in my ears, behind everywhere, and closed my eyes and, made it happen. And, of course, making the device and then planning it all. It was almost like conducting a symphony, and I think about it a lot, because like when I finally did make it to prison and I was a few years in, I was in this particular program where, I would have guys helping me, and I would have like this guy over here painting a landscape, and this guy up here putting some clouds in, and this guy over here painting some trees up and down. And I would have another guy washing brushes and bringing them back. And I was, pointing and, and walking and moving and keeping everything going. And it felt that way. I felt like I was coordinating this endeavor that was fun to watch. And that's the way this felt too. And even now in my business, doing what I'm out here doing now is very similar. We've used that analogy several times, so it plays a major if not the most substantial thing, skill.
I feel like it was one of your qualifications. Honestly, it was a qualification for you to rob your bank is to be an artist.
Must be creative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is Good Friday, right? Good Friday. It is the day that Jesus, if you're a Christian, is
Rolling into Jerusalem.
yeah, he's about to be put onto the cross. All right, he is sacrificing himself as a great love gesture. Yeah, week 4, but he is sacrificing himself for the love, right, of humanity, save us all. And you wake up that morning, and it is the day that you are going to rob the bank.
Yep.
Can you lead us through the moments, right? You're racing. What is racing through your mind? What is the steps?
All I can say is those well-laid plans went right out the window.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is Good Friday. I'm feeling like super sacrilegious at the same time. I think that there was one small detail that I had forgot. I needed to go to the store, or there's something that I was like, wait, what about this? So my way to and from the store, I was like, Good Friday. Are the banks closed today?
Oh,
That
yes.
sucks.
You know what? I feel like I wouldn't even know if the banks are closed on Friday.
No, it's funny because, Nick Barris did a live report out there afterwards, or during the time they were running the robot in, and there were people commenting on there, and the comments are like they're ridiculous. But somebody was like, aren't the banks closed on Good Friday? It's a good thing school was out, and that's another thing, like a whole different subject. Anyhow,
Wait, we'll talk about that. Don't worry.
it was out, which was a relief for me. I was like, that's good. The bank was open. Apparently, they're open on Good Friday. I actually went in there and asked, "Are you guys open? Are you closing early today?" That's what I did and left. And of course, I was in my girlfriend's car at the time, plain clothes, no big deal. Left, went home and went back through everything. Took the bomb apart, dipped it in bleach, reassembled it. I say bomb, but it's a simulated explosive device, literally made from a couple of DVD player circuit boards, a spray paint canister, a couple of ceiling fan mounts, some wires, and then I rigged up a little battery pack underneath the DVD player circuit board, so the lights would light up, and so the phone you'd light it. Had lights. I mean, if it doesn't,
The lights make it real.
the lights make it real.
Yo.
That's right. So I had all these like little hoses and cords and wires sticking out, and a couple big canister, little canister, Castor Troy looking. So put that thing together, painted my skin, and here I am, and my let's just say my unwilling accomplice was having a moment, a bad day that day. So I was like, you know what? It's fine. I really appreciate it, but I'm doing this. So the painting of the truck, that didn't happen.
Scratch it.
I had to call an audible there. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to grab some gas. So I ran up to the store, I grabbed the gas and gassed the thing up, in my costume, by the way.
Well,
And got me a gallon of gas and threw it in the back of the truck. I was like, I'm going to burn it. I'm just going to pull this thing off out of sight into the park and burn it. Had a nice, like, remote area picked out where they tried to, like the state parks, they keep four-wheelers out of there, but somebody managed to always cut in a trail and get in there somehow. So I eyeballed this place where I could pull in, and get over a hill out of sight on the state park property. So that was my, staging, run to here area. I I get out, my truck won't start. Of course, I have to find a screwdriver and climb underneath of it and connect the nodes on the starter with a screwdriver and make it start. So it finally starts, and I jump in, and I'm feeling like a total jackass. Like, I've got this thing sitting in the passenger seat with me. I'm, of course, dressed to the nines. I wear my best jacket. I got a nice blazer that I usually wear to court,
wow.
my best shirt, my Easter suit, and here I go. And the plan was to drive up past the bank into a neighborhood and make the call with the diversion phone from there. And at least that, because I knew that phone would ping, anytime you pick up a phone, whether it's a dead phone or a phone you find on the street or any phone before you activate it, you can dial 911 from it and it will ping a location from wherever you push the numbers, a flip phone, or anything, a go phone, whatever. So I pull out of the driveway and maybe 100 to 200 yards away, I dial the 911 call. I'm doing it.
What'd you say? Because you talked about a little bit about the diversion call. What was that call that was so concerning?
Well, I called in an armed robbery.
Oh, wow. How ironic. Where at?
Okay. So Stewart's Ferry, Pike is this long curvy road that goes from, in our area, it goes about from 840 to Mount Juliet Road on the parallel with the I-40 stretch there. So it's a lot more curvy. There's no shoulder on it. It's a bad place to drive. People like to bicycle during rush hour off this thing. Is super irritating. But anyhow, Suggs Creek Market is about halfway down. And I've driven it before at, a moderate rate of speed, and it takes 6 or 7 minutes to get there doing 60 miles an hour. So if you're a police officer doing, as fast as you can go, it's going to take you a good 5 or 6 minutes to get there. So that's where I called the armed robbery into. I was like, oh, there's a guy in here with a gun, and you got to get your gun. Yeah. So that was about it. So um, there's a guy laying on the floor. Hold on. Okay. So that was it, right?
All right.
Said the right words and and then static. And then the phone. So then I took the phone, broke it in half, and threw it out the window as I crossed over the interstate on the little road where I was, went and parked about 100 yards down from the bank. And I sat there like, holy crap. And
Because that can get you trouble just in general.
yeah, I'm already like,
You're deep.
I can't. Yeah, I'm knee deep. It was an obstruction charge actually that was worth 2 years in prison.
Alone, wow.
Just so you know. Um, so here they come whooshing by, zoom, 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 woo, 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 woo. I think I counted maybe 3, maybe 4, and then one straggler that came out from my direction. So that was the idea, is to get that any outer patrols that were on that perimeter out there in my escape route away from that area, so that when I walked in and, placed the item on the counter and said, don't make any emergency calls, that I could walk out, get in my truck, make my getaway route. And, more than likely they're going to call. At least that's my thinking. Whether they believe you or not, they're going to call. All they got to do is push a button. So I don't even think that there's a thing that says armed robbery in progress at this location that anyone could hear on a scanner. I'm pretty sure that there's just an indicator that goes up at there, and then they all come to that location. Any, active patrols in that area are summoned to a certain location. So neither here nor there, I was trying to buy myself as much time as I could so that I could get away. So I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted people to take me serious. So I walked in. I actually started walking in, and I turned around. I turned around, I got back in the truck and was like, I can't do this. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm not doing this. I sat there for just a second and I was like, what's going to happen if you don't, right? So you got to do something. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to just give me let's right here. I'm going to say something because I've had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and he's been through some trouble. And even he said, at times, it's like in prison, there's a slang term. They call it crashing out, right? So that's when, you got too much going on. There's this guy bugging you about this. There's this guy bugging you about that. You're not where you want to be, and guys crash out in there. They'll start a fight so that they can get sent to the hole and, get reclassed and get shipped somewhere else. Or, it'll basically just mess up their whole bit. Everything that they have will be, cast lots. Guys will take all their stuff and then it's like starting over, and they call it crashing out. And that's what he said the other day. He says, man, I think I crashed out in life. Nothing, my girlfriend wasn't going good. I lost custody of my kids and I hated my job. I didn't have a car. I was trapped out in the middle of nowhere. And I just kind of made a couple stupid moves, and I almost kind of felt like I did it on purpose, so that I could have opportunity to start over, get in there, get sober, and then have an opportunity to start over. And it was during this time, these few days, I was feeling like that. I was like, look at my life. I want to be able to work and to be able to function and contribute and, I don't know, be a soccer coach or a mentor or build stuff or whatever, be the most in my potential, And I was like, I'm never going to be able to do it. Going through these cycles and, overcoming an opioid addiction was like the biggest main thing. I was like, how am I ever going to be able to get over that? Well, I know one thing, if I go to prison, I'll be able to get over it. And everybody's like, well, they got more drugs and cheaper drugs in prison than they do anywhere else. But you can make a choice when you go in there. Sometimes out here, it's just different. And I can remember thinking that. I'm not saying I did it on purpose or anything, but in a way, like I said, I had this out of body experience. And I swear, when I went back to the truck and I talked myself out of it, I was like, just put one foot in front of the other. And I swear I stepped one foot out and then I stepped another foot out. And I watched my feet the whole way in there. I watched my feet go in there. I watched my hand, like I made my hand just open the door. Just open the door. Just step inside. Just step again. step again. Right. Just set the thing on the counter. Just slide the note. And when I did, she read it. She was very scared. She was starting to shake as she was reading it. And I looked at her and I said, yes, this is for real. Do you see what it says on the paper? Do you see this wire hanging out of my ear right here? And I turned the device around so that she could see, and opened up the phone and pressed the button on it so she could see it light up. And once the lights came on, it was like, it was real. And the other teller lady peeked around and I said, I want yours too. She had already tried to throw a couple bundles of money in there and push it back to me. I was like, no, I want it all. And I want yours too. So they'd filled up 2 more bags of money. I'm pretty sure it was all ones.
I mean, it had to be right.
One small bundle of 20s, 2 big bundles of 5s, and the rest of it was ones. There were all of these, like, they call them bait bills. I guess they're recorded serial numbers. Mm-hmm. So I learned this after the fact. And
what did your note say?
It said, I know where you live. I know your name. I have followed you home for the last couple of days. If you call emergency services, I will show back up to your house. You will see me again.
Wow.
It also said that the wire in my ear was connected to a scanner where I could hear emergency services, and that if I heard any calls in the next 5 minutes come into emergency services, that I would use the phone that I had to light up the phone on the other one, and that would be the last thing that they saw.
Wow.
So she handed me that. I left the device. I grabbed the note. I walked out. I got in the truck. I sped away. I made it to my little location, and that was that. So,
wow. And so, when you were telling the story on our previous podcast, there was a section about the hero factor, right? And I kind of want to talk about for a second and have you describe, some things you didn't account for, right? You said that the bank was across the street from school. You didn't realize that. And what does the hero factor mean?
Okay, so the hero factor was like, I think that's the reason I turned around the first time, because I see these 2 big diesel trucks parked in the parking lot, and I was like, holy crap, I didn't even think about that. There's going to be these, cowboy types in there that, like you say, might carry a concealed weapon underneath their denim jacket and not hesitate to be the hero of the day. So it was kind of like, how do I be aggressive and show that I mean business and also get in and out kind of unnoticed at the same time? It wasn't like one of those in the movies, jump up on the counter, give me all your money or I'm going to kill you type things. Like, I didn't even want to say the words, I'm going to kill you. And I wouldn't, And to see them in there was like, they happened to be like over at a loan officer's, in front of their door, just kind of leaned up, away from the area just enough where they didn't hear me. So it was like, I was scared to death of that. Once I finally got in there, I was just trying to, make the communications that I had stern enough to where they knew that I was serious, but not so loud that those guys would hear me or even like make it a known. I'm not sure if they knew what was happening while I was in there, but they definitely knew after I was gone.
Were there any other people in there that you noticed or thought about, or
no other patrons in there? There was one lady who was at the front desk when I walked in. She never looked up and never looked down. I don't even think she ever knew I came in or even left until, I'm sure once I left, the lady probably screamed, "We just got robbed." So I'm assuming that's what was said. I felt really bad for the lady that was the teller there. So,
yeah.
Like you said, that the school was across the street. Of course, I didn't think about that until, I was already walking out. I'm like, it's empty. They're out of school. I guess it was spring break. There was a church next to that. And all my life I've driven past this place. I've never thought about it. Maybe, I guess, why would they put a bank in the middle of nowhere? Maybe that type of situation. Maybe it was waiting for me this whole time to change my life.
Right.
But it was from the hero factor to the school to the church that they turned into a crisis center, turning the front of the school into a place where they brought out the SRT team and the bomb robot, getting it out and calibrating it. I'm assuming the news vans. It was embarrassing, for me. And I felt really bad. I felt like, man, this is the worst. Like I've done. It didn't even matter if I had what I needed money wise or whatever at that point. To me, that time, I just wanted to like reverse every bit of it.
Right. During the execution of the robbery, a lot of emotions are going on. How did you manage those emotions when you were in there and then even walking out?
I have no idea. I stayed focused on the job. It's like when, let's say, you get up in the morning and you have an argument with your spouse. Some people can't get over that, and they stay stuck until they get something resolved. Some people, like, the show must go on. I'm going to compartmentalize that.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on through the day. I'm going to start the car. I'll sip the coffee. I'll listen to the AM radio on the way in, and then I will conduct my tasks and get through the day. Maybe if I have a moment, I will text them, I love you. And that's, the way that you got to do what you got to do. So in a nutshell, I just compartmentalized them and think that it all just, it even took several days for it to even hit me. Even the processing, being arrested, and the aftermath of it all was even still like a process.
Right. Well, and I also like think about just your childhood and your early years. Like you had to, manage emotions a lot. You had to compartmentalize a lot. And so, and I know we jokingly talked about this, but you've like your life kind of trained you to be able to handle those kinds of emotions, which is what's wild to me.
Yeah, I thought about that too. And and like even I just said a minute ago, like been waiting for me there my whole life.
Right.
It just didn't seem like a hard thing to do. I kept them, I was scared. I was um terrified, the whole freaking time. And I knew somewhere deep down, like the minute I opened up those bags and saw that there was like $3,500+ in there, I was like, I'm going to jail. There's no way I couldn't even, there isn't enough money in here to get out of the county, much less the state or the country. So not that I was trying to do. I was trying to pay all the bills off and stay under the radar.
Right.
And after I saw that, it was like, I knew that was happening. So I just, um, I went through the motions, It felt like I was doing a job, felt like I was going to work, and that in a minute I'm going to be arrested. I told Jessica even very calmly when, we were in the hotel room and the task force finally caught up with us and the knocks were on the door. I was like, look, lay down on the floor, put your hands out in front of you. She was very pregnant, so I didn't want them to slam her on the ground and hurt the baby. I was like, they're going to come in and they're going to put their knee on top of your face and they're going to be very rough with you. So do all the motions that you can so that they don't force you into doing those motions or they're going to hurt you and the baby. So she did. And until she got into position, I wouldn't open the door. And, of course, I was trying to, Tony Montana, the rest of the stuff that was on the bathroom counter before they got in there.
Right. Flushed down the toilet. And then, you realize that you only came out with a little bit of money, a portion of what you thought you were going to. So in the story, you said, screw it. I'm just going to get high as heck.
Yeah.
Is that the moment where you felt like there was a moment of no return? Like you'd rather die than like what was the point? Like, what did you feel about that?
I don't know. I knew that I was going to be arrested and I was already like, feeling sick. I was already feeling the detox coming on because I had made myself be sober so that I could execute, my tasks, without, making some stupid blunder,
Right.
which, because I knew there was going to be some problems or some type of something that I was going to have to call an audible on. I wanted to be able to think clearly and not be emotional. I think that with just keeping a clear head, helped a lot with that. But at that point, when I decided to get high, I was like, well, at least it'll prolong that that pain on, because I assumed I was going to go to jail that night or even the day after. So I wanted to at least like get that somehow inside of me. I don't think that there was enough there to kill me. So I couldn't afford it.
Do you think your drug induced, what you're doing right now, what you were doing at that time is what gave you the courage to attempt to make a negotiation deal?
Probably. That falls back to the creative factor.
Yep.
You know, I can remember, before I went to like I made my getaway. I left the bank and, tried to set the truck on fire, but I couldn't find my lighter.
Ironic.
So all the note, the wig in my costume pretty much was in the truck left on this state property. And, I left and then drove back through there and stopped at my guy's house. And, I called a really close family member to come and, help and, help us get a hotel room for us. And, gave them some money and went on about my business. And later on, I know that the FBI had questioned them before they found us, ironically, and they said that they would not believe for 1 second that the guy that was in the bank was me.
Right, because you did such a good job crafting a different persona.
I wish I could find that picture because it definitely, looks like someone else. That's for sure. So,
hopefully we can find it in your files.
yeah, he was mad. The FBI agent was super mad that I was like, I'll tell you exactly who that guy is if you can guarantee me that I'll only do 2 years in a camp somewhere. So he was like, deal, tell me right now. And I was like, it's me. And he was like, he slammed the paper down. It was like super mad, like TV crime drama series mad, like, get the hell out of here. You're so full of it. And like got up in my face. And I was like, look, man, it's me. I painted my skin. I put a mustache on. I created the whole deal. And he was like, the guy that come in there was like 6'3". There's no way that was you. And I was like, and I showed him. I was like, look at, see these things right here? I had taken some plywood and cut some little, the shape of a heel of a boot and put them down in the shoes until they stacked up. And, they made me taller, like I was walking on my tippy toes, inside my shoes. And he didn't believe me.
That's so crazy.
I don't think it had any impact either way on my sentencing. But what I will say is that they tried to charge me with a hate crime. They tried to charge me with give me an additional like 2 years on like targeting another race and have them looking for a different race of people and targeting them, which I kind of find crazy. How how can you charge that? I mean, if you're trying to do a crime, you're going to try to get away with the crime regardless of it. So they're going to charge me with a hate crime because I dressed up like a rabbit and now I'm endangering rabbits.
Yeah, well, it's, I mean, the FBI comes in there, right?
Right.
Take you away.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Well, they separate us. They question us. That whole bit comes to a head, and they take me to the local county jail. And they put me in there, and the next morning, I'm like, where's the food? What's happening? I wake up super early. I didn't get any sleep. I figured maybe I'd sleep it off, but for some reason I went straight into the detox right then and there, like that night. Like there was no sleep. There was no like sense of like, okay, well, at least I'll ride this out. It was constant stress. Like I was jacked up on adrenaline. And so these two big guys on like full tack gear come and get me and drive me from Lebanon in this blacked out SUV like you see on TV down to like the big, huge federal building downtown, the Fred Thompson building or whatever they call it, and go into this special parking garage. And it's crazy. Like well, the things that you never see, right? Downtown, there's all these little ins and outs. And so we pull into this weird parking garage right near where I had worked so many times and never had any idea. And take me up into this place, which it was the courthouse at the time. Now they have the new building, and they processed me super cold, like icebox in there. I was in there for about a day, and then this little van came to get me with these other two plainclothes U.S. Marshals, and they drove me up to a holding facility in Kentucky. We drove up to this little place, and it looked like it looked like your house, like two little houses. I'm not, well, this is quaint, like get in this place and it's like the Umbrella Corporation, like an octagon that goes down underground like 8 stories.
What? That is crazy.
Yeah, so no windows, got like the tower in the middle, and that was my home until I was sentenced, and I sat there and was arraigned and sentenced, and did a few more months there until they finally put me on the bus to go to prison.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you kind of like look back or even think about it now, what impact did the bank robbery have on your local community, and how did it affect people around you, whether it's the community, friends, family? You touched on it a little bit about how the church turned into a center.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, for one, like everyone who worked in the bank does not work there anymore. None of them.
I don't blame them.
All of them, had to talk to a counselor or, to some degree, had, an issue with that happening in such a quaint rural, place like that, which it is. Gladeville is like, I love Gladeville. I always say that's the center of the universe right there. It really is. I still say it all the time. And like Nick Barris, he's the Channel 5 top reporter guy. It might be Channel 2, I'm not sure, but he's doing an exclusive, on something 2 or 3 nights a week out there. And he lives in Gladeville, and he did like a live stream on Facebook during the time when they were running the robot in there. And, I can remember seeing the report, and, he was like, I could see the emotion in his face, and seeing the comments about people and the kids in the school. And, at least community wise, it just made me feel like, it made me feel like a real piece of garbage. Like seeing that part, was brought to this perfect, good, low crime, trusting area neighborhood. And I don't know if it brought people together or made people talk about it more or anything like that. But I do know that, for me personally, that, I've written letters to everyone who worked in the bank, and tried to let them know that I would have never had any intention of hurting them, and then I didn't want them to fear for anything, that I was in a desperate place, and that that they had nothing to worry about or fear. And but as far as me personally, like, it embarrassed every single person in my family. Easter Sunday, everybody's waking up to this news cover story, got my picture on the news that says that I robbed a bank and that I'm wanted by the FBI and yada, 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 and that I'm in custody. And, no one talked to me. It was years in there. I never had a visit while I was in prison. My mom had written me a couple of letters, and there was several people who really, hung in there with me, but that's another story for another time. But it sealed the door shut with any kind of, support or relationship with the family, like, which I don't blame them either, and probably be the same with me. I mean, why would I want anything to do with my drug addicted bank robber nephew that, decided to go throw his life away?
Yeah, definitely. And we only have a couple questions left here in your hand, just touch on it. But, what steps have you taken now to make amends or kind of turn your life around since, being released, since that robbery?
Well, I mean, that's like the whole reason for the podcast, right?
Yeah, one of
I
them.
mean, it's what my life is about now. Like, at some point through, halfway through my, my prison stay, I made the decision to turn this whole thing around and to, build people who were positive, build a group of mentors who were positive, who could, help me change my life and be good examples and show me what, that even looks like. Not to mention, the work that I've done on myself physically and, the books that I've read. And so as far as like where I'm at right now is like the business, the podcast, the guys who work for me, even, I've worked super hard to be able to not only maintain, my business and my life and my social status, being very meticulous about, in particular about even the things that I just post, I'm just very selective and very particular about the way that I carry myself in my life. And I want to be able to, I mean, we've been through this. I've tried to help several guys and ended up putting myself at risk, and getting just a little bit too close to the flame there when it comes to trying to help people out with their issues. And if it wasn't for the guys who helped me, I wouldn't be in this position. And it's kind of funny because I just talked to one of them this morning, and he was like, you're gonna it's going to be really hard for you to do this because 9 out of 10 of those people are going to let you down. They're not going to make it through the program. They're not going to be this big success story that you're used to seeing because you happen to be one that did it. Just stick in there, hang in there for the one person that makes it, and that'll make it worth it. Just don't get discouraged. That's exactly what he said to me this morning.
Well, it's true, right?
Yeah. So, as far as the changes and stuff that I've made, I mean, I could go on and on about them. I feel like that's another episode or two, but I'm definitely not. I'm in a rehabilitation program. I've spoken to drug court classes and communities. I've tried to advocate for rehabilitation, recovery, and reentry, and am using this podcast as a means to create awareness for vocational rehabilitation, reentry, recovery, and rehabilitation, and to build, the Due South Design Center. So I would say that there's been some major changes and decisions there for sure.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think your life now is all about giving back to your community and using your, your story and your experience to inspire change in many different areas. So with that last question, right? If you could go back and advise your past self, or even people that are in the situation right now, right? Something similar, they feel like they're desperate, they're on a free fall, if you will, right? What would you say to them to prevent taking a path like yours? If you can get some advice.
Get a paternity test early on. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, that's some foreshadowing right there. That's some foreshadowing. Definitely.
No, I'm just kidding. For real. So if I could, I mean, what advice could I give them? It's hard to give someone who has made a huge mess of their life, but each time I have had to go and face the music or, running from something for a period of time, each time, every single time I wish I would have done this a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that thing that you're running from, that thing that you feel like is unforgivable or like unmanageable or whatever it is, like get up and walk out and like just go do it right now. Like I know this could sound crazy, but if you got like something hanging over your head, go turn yourself in. If you're feeling like, oh, well, I have people to support and this and that, or things that happen, everything is better off right now. Get it done right now so that you can be a better person as soon as you can. Time is the only thing that matters right now, not money, not where you're at or where you're going anywhere else. It's time. That's the governing factor in all of our lives right now. And the minute that you can evolve and learn from what has happened to you or what's going on with you is the minute you're able to share it with somebody else, is the minute you're able to actually contribute and give. So I don't know, a lot of times people ask me, would you do it again? Or if you could go back and do anything different? It's a very hard question to answer because I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in right now to be able to say. I just feel like it takes in order to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. And not that I would go and rob a bank or, consciously, like purposefully say, hey, I know what's going to happen here. This is going to, scare people and, create panic and, cause things to happen here and cause, especially my sons, to have to be without a dad for 5 years. Not to mention, what happened, during that time. I hate, I couldn't do that, but to give someone advice to my past self or to one person, I would say, to stop thinking about it and do it. Do it scared.
Do it scared. Awesome. Well, I know this has been a longer episode than usual, but hopefully we have answered some of your questions that you've been curious about. Again, as Matt said, if you have questions that we have not answered, feel free to submit them on doitscared.com/podcast or follow us on Instagram and on TikTok, which is also Do It Scared. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again for listening. We will see you or I guess you'll hear us in the next one. Bye.
Bye.